In today's video, I am going to be doing a review of The Last Tale of the Flower Bride by Roshani Chokshi. This is the first novel that I've ever read by Chokshi, and from what I understand, if I'm not mistaken, this is her adult debut. If this is indicative of her writing and storytelling, I'm very much excited to read the rest of Chokshi's works. This book, however, is a gothic fairy tale infused novel that follows two perspectives. The first one is this unnamed bridegroom, and the second one is this woman or girl named Azure. And it follows them as they form relationships with this woman named Indigo Maxwell Castaneda. Indigo is an heiress to a large fortune. She's very rich. The bridegroom, as expected by his title, is the man who falls in love with her and marries her. Azure is a girl who has this connection with her from childhood and pretty much grows up with her. There is this mystery element to this novel of what happened to Azure, because Indigo doesn't talk about her life at all, even to her husband. But at the same time, the bridegroom doesn't talk about his life to his wife. This creates a lot of tension and mistrust between the two. And as you are exploring both perspectives of the bridegroom and Azure, Roshani Chokshi has this really great ability to build the tension and build the suspense of not only who these characters are and how they might betray one another, or if they're even going to betray each other, but also exploring themes of relationships and obsession and marriage and identity, and trauma, and how that all impacts not only a person as an individual, but also their relationships with one another. I was very much surprised by this. It came out of left field in regards to how much I enjoyed it. Let me kind of take a step back. This novel, the catalyst of this story, is that the bridegroom and Indigo, after they are married for a few years actually, they return to Indigo's childhood home in the northwest of the United States because Indigo's aunt is dying. This is where the stereotypical kind of trope aspects of the Gothic novel come into play, where you have this character returning home and you have this outside character that is trying to understand, and there's very much a physical character aspect to the childhood home that the two are returning to. The house is called the House of Dreams, and this house senses people's emotions and desires inhabitants to either stay or leave, experiences a sense of loss when people they love go away. With that said, this novel is not one that I think everyone will love. This novel is definitely purpley and flowery prose, and I would argue intentionally so, especially considering there's a lot of flowery imagery literally throughout this novel. There are descriptions of roses and chrysanthemums and lilies of the valley and just all this literal imagery of flowers just weaved throughout this novel. And in regards to the purpley side of things, even though indigo is traditionally a shade of blue, it can also be seen as a shade of purple. And I would argue that was an intentional choice on the author's part to name indigo as indigo. Roshani Chokshi does a really wonderful job of weaving together aspects of the Gothic with fairy tales itself. The bridegroom character himself, he is an academic. His expertise is fairy tales and myth. And Chokshi has this ability to maintain this unsettling kind of sense of suspense of the Gothic genre while still honoring and exploring this sense of wonder and timelessness of fairy tales and making it work for this novel. I would definitely recommend The Last Tale of the Flower Bride if you enjoy Gothic novels, fairy tales, even though this is not a fairy tale retelling at all, or if you just like, dare I say, atmospheric and vibey books. This is one that definitely surprised me in the best way, and I'm so glad that I picked it up and read it. If you have read this book before, definitely let me know down below how you enjoyed it. If you did, if you didn't, let's talk about it. This is definitely one that I think there's a lot to discuss and explore as a reading experience. If you haven't read it and you are interested, definitely let me know, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I did.